Where we go? Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? Let's give this a second. Back. Well, I like to do both. I know that more people like to watch on here. For now. So we'll keep let me move this a little closer today. Go right there. We'll keep interspersing them and doing one then the other. Tomorrow I will be traveling and the next day I'll be out of town. And then usually I don't do things on the weekends, so yeah, this will be it for today. Okay, hold on. Where are we at? Let some more people join the show. Active on Twitter or full turn off. Hang on a sec. Should be okay. There is like an air vent right above me that constantly turns on throughout the day and then adds an enormous amount of background noise. Why did I slander Ralph Rangnick yesterday? Because I don't like Ralph Rangnick. I think he's an asshole. Yeah, I'm in an office. If you read about a lot of the things that happened under Ralph Rangnick, actually happened, I think he's a clown. And I think he did a really, really poor job at United. And I think he was really just in it for himself. He revealed Luke Shaw's partner's birth, having a kid, and implied that he was supposed to be back and wasn't. And there had to be articles written about that, that there might have been complications and things. Like, what's wrong with this guy? You know, the types of things he would say. He lied in press conferences about situations with 3 or 4 different players, and funnily enough, none of them have to do with Rashford, which I don't know where that comes from, thinking it's irrelevant to that. But yeah, don't like him. He's a dickhead. And couldn't show up for training. He scheduled a training, was still on holiday, forgot about it. Ignored everybody at the club, created a toxic environment, had blow-ups with individuals who are still at the club now. So, yeah, don't like him. Never have, never will. I was excited about him when he joined, but there was also racialistic comments that he made about Naby Keita earlier on in his career. All of that. So, not a big fan of Ralph Rangnick, and it has nothing to do with Marcus Rashford. Has everything to do with a lot of other people. Can we hear about why Van der Gaag was replaced? Well, I'd like to wait until there's something official on that. I'd just like to wait until there's something official on that. I think that would be, yeah. I'd like to wait until there's something official. Yeah. I will wait. We will wait. We will, okay. We're going to get into it here in a second. I've got a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about Ten Hag's veto remaining. I want to talk about the staffing situation, letting go of staff, the financials, the PSR, all of that kind of stuff. I want to talk about... What did I also want to talk about? I want to run through all the transfers, all the situations that are ongoing right now. There's a couple other things, but we'll do it. So I've got a new intro for you all to watch, and then we'll get started. Enjoy. There you go. There you go. There you go. UEFA. Yeah, well, they blocked Todibo and, did some other things to us that were quite annoying. And then there's the financial situation. So, yeah, anyway, enjoy. I've got another one. I've got a couple other good ones that Jevin has made for us coming up soon. But, yeah, I will, I think they're going to be a lot of fun, but, they're going to be a lot of fun. I'm waiting for things. I'm waiting for Ten Hag's announcement, and I just know it's going to happen while I'm traveling, because so I remember the last time, like a year ago, it was during summer, sometime in June, I went away. I don't know why my audio would be quiet. I don't know. Maybe. Well, there's this thing in the background, but like I said, that's drowning me out a little bit. But I'm about as close to the microphone as I can get. Input device. Let's try that. Anyway, yeah, the audio's fine. Turn it up for you. And then every time that I go away, they tend to... something happens. Last time it was about like, it was like when that Reuters article came out about Qatar winning, apparently, and I had to fight all the fires on that because it wasn't true. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the real subjects. Erik Ten Hag, first of all, right? So we're waiting for his deal to be completely announced and finalized. I think it's pretty much all set, as far as I gather anyway, that it is totally done, that there's very likely to be... One second. And of course, that what's going to come with that is the coaches, right? We're going to get the coaches. We're going to get Van Nistelrooy. We're going to get Rene Hake, and they're going to be involved in all of this as well. Now, in the story from Mark Critchley and Laurie Whitwell this morning, early on in the middle of the night for me, that Ten Hag would keep his veto, and I mean, it details a whole bunch of shit in here, right? Which is all very interesting stuff. One of the main things that I think was to take away from it, and something I've maintained for a long time, is this whole frustration has to do with the scouts not being listened to, right? Is you have you've had them recommending players for years, and if you read what it says in there, it says that that Joel Glazer would sit there and review all the scouting reports. I told you Joel Glazer was acting as basically the director of football for years. And there's some of the detail about it. Sitting there reviewing scouting reports. What does Joel Glazer know about scouting? What does Joel Glazer know about reading reports to decide on signing players? That's what would happen. That was what would happen. So people would sit there, and this is where a lot of times people don't really know what's going on. And I compare it, when you're talking about Ralph, I think that's part of the thing. You can sit there on the surface level and say, wow, Ralph said all these amazing things, incredible, what a guy. But what's actually going on behind the scenes is often quite a bit different. And for years, people would sit there and say, well, our scouts are terrible. We never identify good players. We have no idea what we're doing. Poor recruitment team, poor people, all of that. What was happening is, Joel was essentially doing the job of the director of football all this time and overseeing things. When Ten Hag got brought in, they essentially, he was pretty much the director of football then as well. Ten Hag was, and there's never really been a structure where they're actually listening to people the way that they should. So with this veto, a couple of things that I want to say is, number one, I have been telling people for quite a long time that Ten Hag wants this power. He wants this control. That's just a fact. And people would tell me I have an agenda about it. People would tell me that I'm wrong about it. People would tell me that he only asked for the veto because he was, working with a bad structure when he came in. It's not the case. I told you, he wants it. He wants to have that control and that power. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying that is a fact. He wants that. And now you're seeing it. And I've gotten a lot of heat from people saying I have an agenda by saying that about Ten Hag. It's the facts. It's the reality of it. It is what it is. So he's keeping it. He wanted it. I'm not surprised by that. When they walked away from the situation they were dealing with in reviewing the manager side of things, then they had to go back hat in hand, to Ten Hag and say, you're our guy. I'm sorry, we cheated on you, or we want you back. We love you, all of those things. And that weakened, of course, their negotiation standpoint. So I'm fully on them for reducing what they can do, reducing their standing in all of this and needing Ten Hag more than he needed them. And, I think there's good things that they're changing that are at the direction of or in line with, at worst, Ineos's direction, which would be, of course, the Van Nistelrooy appointment, as well as, changing up the assistants and Van der Gaag. But we're going to talk more about Van der Gaag later. I think if he is leaving, there's a lot of good reasons for that too. I think it'll be an improvement with what's in there. If he is leaving, I think what we're getting is going to be a big improvement. So, they've kind of, essentially, this was not the intention originally for things, but, it is what it is. And so just understanding whether it's good or bad, we're just going to wait and see how it plays out, here's the thing about it, though. There's a lot of positives to take with this too. I'm not going to sit there and say this is like all a disaster or something, because it's not. The positives are, one, obviously the club are not going to do what they did before. They're not going to say, well, you don't like that player, so you suggest your name, you pick who you want, and then we're going to go spend a whole bunch of money where we don't value a player and buy them. We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to be doing the 80 million Antony deals. We're not going to be spending 6 weeks chasing Frenkie de Jong when he doesn't want to join. We're not going to be buying older players like Casemiro simply because, he's a backup option because we chase Frenkie de Jong. There's a lot of mistakes, and there's mistakes obviously date back way before Ten Hag on all of this, right? We're not going to do that anymore. A lot of those mistakes are gone. We're not going to buy bad players on huge costs anymore, no matter what. Him having a veto doesn't change that. That's not happening anymore. That isn't going to continue to happen. The concern I do have, and I asked people if they agreed on this. I think most people, even if you wanted Ten Hag to stay, you would have hoped that he didn't have really that much control over transfers. I think that was the case with most people, that most people would agree on that front, right? So, I think that. But if he does have a veto, this is essentially the facts of it. Let's say that they're identifying their targets, which they are, and they're presenting their targets, which they are, and they're saying, we've got these few options. This is the one that we think is most attainable. This is what we can do, all of that, which they are. Then he can pick. If there's one he does not like, he can veto it. Now, the reason I don't like a veto in general, and I don't think it should exist, is that what happens, say, now he vetoes Ugarte. I'm not saying he will, but let's say he does. Let's say he does. And your only backup plan right now is to re-sign Sofian Amrabat and bring him back to the club. Because for some reason he doesn't like Ugarte. Well, The issue is in a collaborative environment and in a discussion, why do you need the veto? You don't have to force it on a manager, right? Tubby, why is my name Tubby Sheep on Discord? Ask one of the other mods. They can change your name. Right. You don't want to be forced into having to go for Alvarez or something like that. You know, you don't want to do that. That's you don't want to be in that situation. But if it was a collaborative situation, it doesn't mean you have to force a player on a manager. But there's a difference in having a discussion with somebody where you're saying, hey, you know, we're going to get you the best players. We're going to do all this. What do you think of these guys? If they have concerns, you resolve it, right? But when they have a veto, they don't have to listen. They don't have to resolve it. They could just not. And you can say, well, that's not going to happen. But same people said he was going to give up his veto and he didn't care about it. He does. Why would you argue for and fight for a veto if you don't care about it, if you don't intend to use it? That is a concern. And what it essentially means is that the lowest common denominator of the system is Ten Hag's assessment of players. Because if he doesn't like someone, we won't sign him. That can be concerning. So, you know, I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that that's what's going to occur. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm not saying it's going to, you know, mess things up. But I don't know why it's necessary if one isn't intending to use it. I don't think Ten Hag is qualified based on a track record so far to make those kinds of final calls and have like the ability to block it built into his contract. Now, of course, if you don't get along, you can always change the manager. That's the reality of it. That's what I think. There could be a lot, you know, there's a lot of variety within there. That being said, and we'll talk about all the names at the moment, I've got really no problem with what we're doing on transfers this summer. So far, it looks good to me. And correct, if he says we don't want this player, he can't force them to sign a bad player they don't want. But if you have club-led recruitment signing the ideal player, signing nobody, or signing cheap, unaffordable players, well, the club can say no and expensive bad players. The club will never sign expensive bad players again. But they could be forced into signing nobody based on a veto. They could be forced into signing nobody, and then you'd have people saying, "Oh, they're not backing the manager," and all of that. Those are just generalized concerns, okay? And I think that you know, that is just, it is what it is. We'll see how it plays out. I think right now it's fine. I think right now what we're doing is good. But we can't afford missteps, and we can't afford deals to be blocked or stopped and end up, you know, somewhere else. And, you know, so it is what it is there. I think most people would have hoped that would change, but once they decided to keep him, I didn't expect that it would, frankly. And I expected that someone was going to bend there, and it had to be Ineos because they messed up. They did. It is what it is. The club might buy expensive players that won't be good. Yeah, that can happen, sure. But they won't buy expensive players for more than they want to pay for them, knowingly, you know, they can make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But they're not going to go buy Anthony for double his price when they don't rate him like that, or go buy a 30-year-old Casemiro, you know? Anyway, point being is that you don't need that veto in there, in my opinion. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you force managers to work with players. I think you do things very collaboratively, but I really don't like contractual veto type of things put in there. But let's move on from this. Let's move on from this subject. Because it's fine. Let's see what we're doing. We'll see what else is in there. I like a lot of the changes, but yeah, we'll see what's in there, and we will we will move on. Let's talk about the staff cuts, because I think this is an interesting one to me. The staff cuts. It's something that, you know, obviously that we've known we're gonna do for a while. 1 second. Time's right. Okay. We've known that this is coming. We've known that this is something that they're gonna do. We've known that this is something they have to do, is to evaluate the overall is to evaluate the overall picture of things, is to evaluate that, to look at the finances, to say, hey, we have way too many staff, we have way too many people involved. We need to fix this. We need to cut it down. And for a lot of people, you know, it's unfortunate, but the club has been losing money, and I want to go over the kind of the PSR space in a minute. But the club has been losing money for some time, right? It's been very negative financially. A lot of that is to do with recruitment, but unfortunately, they're looking at across the board, as they would with any kind of takeover coming in. Where can we cut costs? Where can we save money? And this is one of those areas. And essentially, the determination was we just have way too many people, and we don't need all of these people. And that's what they think. That's what they think. That's what they think at the moment. And I don't know if they're right. I don't know if they're wrong, but that's what they believe. And when they look at it, it's just overinflated. And so that's the decision. Cutting it down by 25% of the staff is a lot. It's certainly a lot. And it's going to save, I don't know, the word is something in tens of millions. That's what's in the report, maybe 15 to 20 million, which isn't a huge amount when you compare it to, you know, the cost of players and things like that. But of course, you know, at the same time, you start adding these things up. So you cut costs there, you get a little bit better deals on a sponsorship. Ticket prices go up 10%. I'm not saying that they should, but say they do. You expand the stadium over time, and all of these things start to widen the gap in terms of what you can spend. And that's the unfortunate part about football in general, in my opinion, in the modern way, is that it's all about costs. And the more you can spend, the better. I personally think that you should hard cap spending. That's what I think. I mean, like a cap. UEFA should do a cap for everybody, like 450 million a year, and then it goes up 5-10%. And that wouldn't affect the smaller clubs. Everybody's still on that percentage, but it would limit it to where it's not an endless financial arms race. Because I think the problem is you're going to see things like, you know, La Liga clubs going to the US and doing things to make more money and trying to keep expanding the financial, and then other clubs and other leagues are going to have to follow suit or fall behind financially, and I think that's a concern. So that's why this is happening. It's not just the little guys getting sacked here or being made redundant, but a lot of the it's across the board. Managers, people who are making, you know, decent money. So it's probably entire departments and areas that are being let go. So significant savings. I'm not saying that you celebrate it, but in a large way, it's correcting errors of the past. If you didn't need to hire these people before, and the club got completely overinflated, well, what are you gonna do? They're kind of correcting that now. Well, you better charge your phone, man, or watch it later. I'm not delaying it. I'm doing this in the way that I do things. So let's talk about PSR space. Give me 1 second. Just want to send something out about this. One moment. Times when I do these, I put out like way too many tweets, and then my whole profile page fills up with stuff I don't want it to. Sorry. Okay, just wanted to send something else out. Okay, cool. He gave me a hard time, so now I'm gonna delay until his battery dies. Sometimes you just got to. Sometimes you just got to. I'm my own man. I do my own things. See ya. Charge your phone. Watch it later. Anyway, PSR space. So one of the obvious limitations that we've had is on how much we can spend. And this has been a real problem. PJ did this for us. And I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to totally read it. It's not that important. PJ's in here. PJ Jordan. There you are. If you want, you can read all of this. You can dive right into it. But essentially, you know, at the bottom, PJ's telling us what kind of space we have, what kind of possibility that we have, and where we're at. This bottom right red number there, in the pink, where it says minus 92,743,000. The cap is 105. We likely spent that 12 or 13 or close to it on Dan Ashworth, and that amount of space that we had was likely taken up by the offer that we've made to as well for Gerard Braithwaite, which then obviously wasn't happening. So we paid up the money for Dan Ashworth. So what does that mean? Over a 3-year period, you can lose, and this is all estimated numbers to be clear, but over a 3-year period, you can lose 105 million if the owner has made investments, which we have. We're probably right about that. 1 year that is falling off now after July 1st is this first column on the left, 21-22, with a loss of 66 million. Okay, so starting on July 1st and with a little bit of this is all again kind of estimates, and you can't quite read this. Starting on July 1st, we have about 75, maybe 70 million in loss space. That doesn't mean a 70 million budget. That means 70 million in losses. Every player you buy is spread out. So if you buy a 100 million player, it's going to count as 20. So when you think 70, you've got to break it up by that. It's going to cost 20. And then their wages are probably going to be another 10 million a year. So that one player's 30 million. So in terms of the space that United have, in terms of the budget that United have, and this is after departures of Rafael Varane, Martial, some of the wages being offset, the different things, United are probably in a situation where, I'm not saying they paid 12 million, I'm saying we had 12 million in space and we used that space, not all of it, to pay for Dan Ashworth. We have enough to lose 75 million. Okay, we have enough to lose 75 million. Okay. However, the problem with that is, let's say you go lose that 75 now, and that 75 would equate to would equate to about 150 million in actual spending when you add the wages in. You don't have to worry about the math if you don't understand it. It doesn't matter. Point being, we could probably spend about 150 million. But if you do that and you max out the cap and you say lose Champions League again and take a 10 million penalty next year, and don't get that increased revenue and you don't get those improvements, the next year you may have no money to spend, like literally none, and you're 100% sell to buy. Okay, that's part of the problem, because the next year you actually lose a profitable year that will fall off from this perspective. So United aren't going to want to spend 150 million net 150 million and max out everything and be at the cap already. And then next year, if anything goes wrong, you're screwed and you can't spend any money. So yes, in a reality, the budget is probably starting at maybe half of that plus sales. So that's why it explains why they're looking at budget signings, which we'll talk through in a minute. Good opportunities. Xerxes, 33 million, and this is pounds, 33 million pounds. Ugarte, they're looking at a deal in the same range, and Delit, they're looking at a deal in the same range. You're talking about maybe 100 million. You could do that. You could manage that. You could manage that. If they're on decent wages, which they would be, you could manage that without sales. Close, but only after July 1st. Yeah, there's nothing in our Snapdragon deal, but with Adidas. Um, and, you know, but we could manage that. But then we really do need to sell to get more in. And who we sell makes a difference too. If you sell Mason Greenwood and get 25 million, that's big. You could fund a big transfer off of that. If you sell Anthony, you probably will take a loss and I actually reduce your spending. So you know, that's part of the problem with that and why you're often loaning players out that you take a loss on. If we can sell Scott McTominay, would help with spending a lot. If we can sell Harry Maguire, would help with spending a lot because we've had them for a long time and we would get profit off of them. So I would suspect that the three major deals we're working on, that's why we need to sell to buy another center back, are the main ones that we can get done, potentially pre-sales, though they probably want to sell a Greenwood or get Sancho off the books in order to be able to afford those three, but then they need to sell more to go further and get another center back, and sell further to go further and get another left back, and sell further to get another midfielder in, right? So, yeah, it's that kind of explains it. We really were at the limit. Ziegler's article today says that we barely made the limit for the 3 years, and now it gets a lot better because that 21-22 is the worst year in our history financially. Now it's a lot better. We can spend, but they're going to want to be smart, and they're not going to want to use up all of the space so where they can't make signings in the future, and it's always sell to buy. Like, you don't want to go into next summer, you've got a good season, you're trying to progress, and you can't, you know? Yeah, so 75 to 100 million would be realistic, and then we've got to sell, you know, and part of that is because of Europa. If we didn't get Europa, it would be lower because we'd be losing out on a potentially significant amount of money. So, yeah, that is the reality of it. And in June, quite frankly, thinking with the manager review, quite honestly, they couldn't afford to sack Ten Hag and pay for somebody who was coming in if they had to pay compensation. Even if they had wanted to, they probably couldn't have, just based on the finances. So, you know, it seems like there's a lot of factors in all of this. But the finances have been destroyed. And that's why they're making the staff cuts. And that's why they're doing all this, because shouldn't be the case. United for a long time ran slightly profitable and break even. And they would give dividends to the owners, which they shouldn't. But now we need to get back there or close to there so that we're not losing money all the time. But they couldn't make other transfers. They couldn't make bigger offers for players in June. They literally couldn't, get any of these deals done in June. They just couldn't. So it is what it is. Let's move on. Let's move on to transfers now then. Okay. Cool. Transfers. So hold on. Don't screw me on this. Hope it does right. Yeah, cool. Let's start, because I did a whole kind of thread this morning. I typed it all out. And I want to talk them through and answer questions on each. First and foremost, the main one to speak about is Matthijs de Ligt. United have opened talks with Bayern. The price they feel is feasible is closer to 40 million euros plus add-ons. They want to get somewhere around 50 million euros total. That would be kind of the maximum they want to get to, with including add-ons. And the initial price that Bayern apparently set was 50 million euros as a starting price, but United wanted to be lower. And I tweeted that out the other night and the other day and posted that, and I've talked about it a couple times, but that was the information that I got of why this deal suddenly became viable. Is they thought, there's a much better priced deal here than we thought originally. And that they didn't know, frankly. They didn't know earlier on when they were looking at him earlier in the year, beginning of June, that he would cost us little. And part of it is a change in manager, right? At Bayern needed to be settled. Vincent Kompany isn't relying on him, wants one or two other people in, and so that pushes him out. So that changed it as well. The other thing was that through his representative, was communicated, from Rafael Pimenta, that he would accept wages, a lower amount of wages, so that they wouldn't be such an issue. So, what did I say? I didn't say anything about PJ. PJ's great. PJ's wonderful. So anyway, that's what you have there. This is moving forward now. It looks very likely. It looks like it's. I strongly would suspect this one's going to happen now, because there's so many more reasons for it, and the price is a hell of a lot closer than the initial offer and price that was named for Braithwaite. Okay. So yeah, this is a really good deal that seems to be moving ahead. The talks continue, and now it seems like it's first. Yeah. So that was that one. So let's talk again about Mr. Jarrod Braithwaite. So again, the situation here is there's still a feeling that they can make a deal. He's still of interest. And a different profile to Matthijs de Ligt. Now, just to be clear on the wage of de Ligt, part of it is not necessarily lowering it. That might be the PR of it, but that a lot of it was incentive-based, and so his actual wage was quite a bit lower. And he'd be willing to take that. So moving on like this. Just keep seeing things. See ya. All right. They're still feeling that this deal can be made. They're still feeling like he's of interest. They still really want him. He was a top target. He's a different profile to Matthijs de Ligt. His physical traits that they like in terms of height, in terms of his kind of physical ceiling of where he can get to, his speed, his left-footedness, but also both-footedness. He's incredible with both feet. If they get de Ligt done, which it looks like is going to happen, then they would need to move on Maguire or Lindelof. Probably Maguire, just when we look at those finances, unless they get some other sales elsewhere. That would be necessary in order to return, and they would not be paying £70 million for him. They don't value him at that level. And so they may not be buying Gerard. No. It's funny. In the US, that name Gerard is Gerard. That's what it is. I understand it's Jared over there, isn't it? It's Jared. Ours spelling of Jared would be Jared. So I know how to say Jared. It's just that's not the name to me in American in American English. That's not what that name is. So yeah, I could say Jarrod Braithwaite if I wanted to, but for me it's Gerard. That's the name. So they would need to sell, as we kind of went over at the finances, in order to get a deal done there, and it would likely be in the range of that 55 million. And I think that deal could be done at that level. I think they would accept something in that range if United would make that offer, but they need to do so. Maguire and Lindelof, this was something I put out the other day, are both set for talks with the club about their future and where they are at. They have an eye on where they're going. Let's see. They're running into the end of their contracts. Victor Lindelof has had his option exercised and has a year left. Maguire has a +1, so he's in the final year, but they could also add to that. Interest in both from elsewhere and offers would be expected. So this is they're going to have talks. They're both due to return pretty soon, right? Sweden were not in the Euros, were they? Yeah, I don't think they were. And so they'll be back soon, and they're set for meetings with, club representatives, Ten Hag, etc., to find out where they stand. Now, if you're signing a de Ligt, they both could stay. But if United want to progress forward and move, to somebody else, then they would need to sell. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, they're due for discussions over the future, and probably both of them would be wanting to, potentially get their a new contract if they're set to stay, or look at offers. There's interest in Lindelof from Galatasaray, as well as from some other, was it Fenerbahce actually, and with Maguire, he would have probably quite a bit of interest if they decided to let him go. And they're willing to. And so at this point in time, the club are willing to, and they might be telling them that, yeah, explore your options, explore what might be out there for you. And then if they can bring a good offer, then they would say, okay, yeah, we'll let you go. And we would want to return for a deal for Braithwaite. So that is some of what they'll have to be looking at. There. In terms of... Did I do the midfield? Midfield. Manuel Ugarte. He is of serious interest to United and right now a leading target. Talks have occurred recently between the clubs. The fee could be fairly reasonable. United would hope to get it done in the 35 to 40 million range. It's likely that PSG are asking for closer to 50 right now. So, that's where the negotiations would be and getting a deal done. The player's willing to join per Fabrizio Romano, despite not being in Champions League. His agents, I know, have been in direct contact with people in PSG to work out a departure. But at the same time, he is focused on the Copa America. And a deal will likely take a bit longer on this one to materialize. You also have the question of, will United spend there before they figure out what happens to Scott and Casemiro, which we'll talk about in a minute. There are other clubs interested, but perhaps not as serious as United for now. He could go somewhere else. They definitely want to move. There's other people interested in taking him, but United would need to get a good deal. Atletico were interested. There's others too. Bayern have bought Palhinha, so they're out of the running there. And yeah, but I think this is a really interesting one. And right now, it's our best bet. João Gomez, he's a player that we've watched, that we were interested in, but have not, any current discussions that I'm aware of at the moment. And he's also at the Copa America. There's other targets that we've looked at, but as of now have been considered to be too expensive. 1 second here. Or for some reason they're not being pursued. Like João Neves, obviously we really like, but very expensive. Morten Hjulmand, which we really like, but apparently very expensive. Amadou Onana, which I think because we still want to come back for Jared Braithwaite, that it's still hard to work out how to get both. And there's probably other names that I don't know or that we've discussed that I haven't included, but these are the main names that we're looking at. We do need to sell here if we're going to, if we were to sell Casemiro and all of that, maybe it would change who we're targeting in this, or maybe it would mean two, But as it stands, I said this in the live of the video the other day, that the previous information I received strongly indicated that he was set to depart. He is right now not a United player, right? It's after his loan is over. But recently there's been more reports of it not being quite decided. My information as of yesterday is that he could make up the numbers, depending on departures and budget. Still would believe the likeliest outcome is a departure, but previous information on this being a certainty could be a miss. Now, I don't know if this is something that had changed or not, but he was pretty strongly set to depart as of a couple months ago. And so, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I didn't quite get the answer, even from who I spoke with, that to make sense to me about making up the numbers, but perhaps if they didn't have the money to buy 2 players and Casemiro left and they got Ugarte or someone like that, they'd want him in there as another backup 6. So Fabrizio said on his playback today that he was still, the option was still available. I thought it would have expired on July 1, but I guess not. Let's see. So, yeah. So we'll see there. That one concerns me a little bit. That's one I'm going to measure up because there was a lot of concerns from the club originally. And I don't see why they should buy him. He had a bad year. They had concerns originally. They decided not to. I don't think you can do it. You know, they cannot buy... I think Ten Hag really wants him. I'm not trying to put blame on him, but I'm just saying that he wanted him originally. The club didn't. To me, this is one of those ones you just draw out the line and say, he's not good enough. We're not going to buy him. We'll do something else. That's my feeling. That's my opinion. Scott McTominay running into the final year of his contract at a crossroads in his career with a big decision to make. Still likely looking to a new contract if he is to stay. Interest from Galatasaray, West Ham, prior interest from others. Prior interest from Fulham, which there's some reports on it, but I'm not sure how accurate they are as of yet, whether that's really revived. Would have offers if he and the club decide to split. So he's somebody that he, wants to, he's somebody that's going to have these talks. He's somebody that's going to have these discussions as well. Coming down towards the end of his contract, wants to know, what is my position? What is my role? Where am I going to play? How much am I going to play? And will probably want a new contract if he's to stay at United. Otherwise, he'll probably pursue somewhere else. So, yeah, we'll see on that. Yeah, we will see on that. And I don't know what to do. You have Bruno, you have Mount playing the more attacking areas if they're healthy. You have Kobbie Mainoo, you're buying somebody else. He's better, more forward, but you bought Mason Mount last year. If he wasn't there, if he was there, then he wouldn't have played, So I'm not sure what you do with that at all, frankly. I'm really not sure what you do with that. So we'll see there as well. But that's one of those meetings, they're going to have to figure out the meetings. Casemiro as well. That's the next one. Interest from Saudi clubs and the director of 4 Saudi clubs, Eminalo, in placing him with other clubs in the Saudi Pro League, but as of yet concerns whether this is going to materialize. Higher wages, a barrier to moving elsewhere in Europe. Difficult second season at United. All parties felt it would be best time to move on, though a real option has to show up and he will return. Otherwise, this one will significantly affect United's budget because of the wages and things like that. So, yeah, they need something on this. They need something on this to fix. They need an option for him to go somewhere, and that would be the ideal for everybody. I think the Saudi leagues haven't quite finalized all of their spending and budget yet, but they seemed the most realistic option. Cristiano Ronaldo wanted him to join there, so we'll see. But if we cannot let him go, then it certainly is going to limit the amount that we can spend on the midfield. There's just no doubt about it. I think you could still hopefully get Ugarte, but then you're probably for sure selling McTominay to make that happen. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for sure in this area to wrap it up. So that's the midfield front. Those are the main names right there that are worth discussing. Let's move to forwards. Okay. So in this area, we have number 1, Joshua Zirkzee. Right now, the top striker choice. The concern for a long time had been how to convince him of the role that United were offering. United are happy with the fee. They're happy with the wages. They're happy with the costs associated. They're willing to pay it. Discussions have occurred between the player and Ten Hag now. United have been encouraged by the talks that they've had. He's viewed as a fantastic opportunity to give United flexibility in attack and provide something different. They feel that there's certainly a way that utilizing him is going to allow them to play a different way. I've talked about this quite a lot anyway, and to fit. He's at the Euros. Milan are still close, and apparently his agent is there today. That could be concerning if he's still thinking that that is the best option, where he's going to have a more defined first choice role. Then I would be concerned about that. And I'm a bit nervous in this position. Hi, Dean. Thanks for watching. I'm a bit concerned in this position, but still there's optimism at the club of getting this deal done. I think it's optimistic. I think it's looking good for everything, but if the agent is talking to them, why? Is he informing them that he's not going to join? They've been moving on other targets. Is there something else? Something on a different player? Because he represents a bunch of players as well. Could be. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that. We just don't know. But United have been more optimistic on this and have been encouraged in the discussions that they've had. So that looks pretty good. When you get into the backup options, you have Ivan Toney, who's been of interest to United for some time, provides a different profile than they're looking at. Concerns over price and costs. No active talks at the moment. So we'll see. That's a tough one. I think he's going to be quite expensive because Brentford really need him. You go down the list further and you get names that would be very uninspiring for me personally. Jonathan David, who I think is really not good enough. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Brian Brobby, all unlikely for various reasons, though they've been considered and there's talents being kept on all of them. They'd be backup, maybe. I don't know if Calvert-Lewin would actually be a cut price depth option, but the others would be a bit cheaper, perhaps. Probably try to get rinsed for Brobby from Ajax too. So either way, kind of down the list, and I think that there's good reasons. Jonathan David may be the only cheap player on that list, frankly, but he's just not very good. He just isn't, and I would be concerned. I'd rather not buy one of these and find some older player, or move it over to the wingers like we've talked about. You know, look at a Nico Williams, look at a Due, look at one of these other names that have been linked. That's what I would say. That, otherwise they're going to have to widen the net again and try to find somebody else to come in for this. So those are the main names I wanted to discuss on the transfer front. And then the last thing that I wanted to do here was to kind of put them into a lineup again. And, Pedro Neto was obviously of interest, but his injuries are so bad. I have a hard time dealing with that. I really, really do. So I want to put him into a lineup now that we've kind of moved on and look at what we might have next year. So let me pull that up and move on to the lineup builder. Nice. So up front we go. Zirkzee, and we go Rasmus, just to give us our options. I quite like this. I quite like the options that we have here. It's a little light on the wings, though, to be quite honest, in terms of top options. But hopefully Amad Diallo would be used more often under this kind of new setup. So we start building this out. Bruno, Mount. Probably should have built some of these beforehand. In the midfield, we go Kobbie Mainoo. And on the bench, who are we putting behind him for now? Scott. And then let's say Ugarte. And we're going to stick Amrabat in here just for the sake of it. Go to the left back. We don't really have anything solid at the moment. Regulon, right? Let's stick him in here. That's the rumor today. I don't know, but let's put him in there. We go Lissandro, and then ideally we get Braithwaite as well, who could kind of swap in here. Delete. I don't know. Maguire, Kombuala. I'm just gonna put what we got. I'm just gonna do that just because. Then we go Dallo. There's a chance, you know, that Wan-Bissaka could leave as well. He's set to, but they need a replacement, you know, an affordable replacement as well. One of the ones that would be interesting, because West Ham are interested in a few players, right? They're interested in Kyle Walker-Peters, and then Wan-Bissaka is someone they're also interested in. I wish we'd just go for Kyle Walker-Peters as an option, who can play both sides and provide coverage, is a good player who's affordable, and then make them buy Wan-Bissaka. Makes sense to me, but it is what it is. If Wan-Bissaka stays, I'm quite happy, because I think he provides something. And then there's Onana, and then on the bench, I'm gonna put. I think Bayindir could leave. I really do. I'm not saying Tom Heaton will be the necessary backup. There's another option, but that's not for today. But yeah, this could be it. I mean, this could be it, right? I really don't think there's a chance that Greenwood would stay. They really do want to move him on, but 5 days he's set to return. I mean, you know. So we'll see. Yeah, Kyle Walker-Peters, Jason Wilcox, know him. A year left. I really, it would, to me, it'd be such a sensible deal if you're needing this, because you don't even have to sell Wan-Bissaka. You know, you can just get him for the left back, and then you can flex him in there as needed. There's somebody different for goalkeeper that might be an option, but we'll see. Yeah, and Evans would be in here too, but I think these would be kind of your first four. And I can't do multiple backups, but I'd like to see Ahmad behind Garnacho, not Anthony. Just, I think Ahmad has a lot more potential and should play. So this could be the lineup now. You know, obviously, it would be a little bit kind of, I'm not saying you put these next to each other, but you kind of look at the style of play and all of that. And the idea would be that you can have some different kind of structures, different kind of setups with playing someone like Xerxes, where you get the I'm just moving everything up for fun. Anyway, where you can get more of this happening, with him dropping in and Rashford and Garnacho having runs it behind, all that. There's a lot of flexibility that you can go here. You could drop into your kind of 3 at the back shape that Ten Hag does, that a lot of managers do, and have the midfielder come inside. There's so many options that can be done. But yeah, having a lot of flexibility, and I think that's kind of the goal. That's kind of the goal with the plan here. And of course, Rashford, as I said, is one who they're going to have talks to very soon about all of his situation, and to define his role, and to figure out, you know, what he's going to do, and to make sure that things are settled there. Ideally, as I understand it, the club would like to keep him and want to get things going again. And that'll be about defining the roles properly. And Bruno Fernandes is in the same boat. So, you know, this could be it. This could be the team to some degree, or, you know, this could be what we've got. This is kind of what's starting to shape up a little more. Obviously, we've done a lot of projections in the past that it's changed a lot. Missing people that looked more attainable prior, you know, stuff like that that's happened. But, you know, don't expect things like the Todibo situation to occur. You know, you don't expect that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's where we might be. I mean, that's, to me, I'm happy with that team. I'm not saying it's done. He is on the team. He's behind Bruno. I'm not saying it's done, but you've got a decent depth. You've got Xerxes and Højlund for the number 9. You've got Rashford, Garnacho on the wing. You need a little more on the wings, personally, in my opinion. You've got depth here. It's not giving up on Højlund. It's having options, because you could also run Højlund off the right with Xerxes. You could run him as a 2. There's a lot of flexibility there. You've got good options in the back line. It's a little light there if you're selling both Lindelof and Maguire, but you probably wouldn't, and you'd have Johnny Evans. You've got options across the pitch, and so I think this would be a good setup, and I think that you could start to see a plan forming with this kind of setup. I think that your questionable positions, you need more wing depth, and you need more wing depth for sure. You might need to figure out what's going to happen with Wan-Bissaka later. But other than that, you've got good players and like everywhere, and you've got some decent depth forming. And one more midfielder, one more deep midfielder, I would say, because I'm not convinced on Amrabat there either. But that's what I would say. That's what I would say. Those would be, then I would say we need those 3 positions: another wide player, another midfielder, and another fullback in the next year, and that would kind of define where we would go. So, yeah, I think this is a good team. I think it's a good direction that we want to go. If Mainu and Ugarte get injured, yeah, the midfield looks bad. But I think if your top 2 midfielders got injured at any club, it would start to look kind of bad. But that's what I agree. I like to get another one. Maybe Collier in there, something like that. So I think funnily enough, Xerxes suits Højlund, because Højlund is also best as a runner still. That's just where he is in his career, and that's what he's best at, is playing on a run, playing on all of that, and that will allow you to have, him even play off of Xerxes. So I think that there's a lot of good options in there. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense to me. I think this is a good plan. I like the direction that it's heading. I like where we're going with things. I think that would make for a good summer. Let me do a poll here, and then let me put it back on screen. Hold on one second. So if we did this summer and we got 9 and 10, 7 to 8, 5 to 6, under 5. Let's put this back up. Tell me what you think. Let's do a poll. What do you think about that? If that's where we ended up at the end of this summer, I'm not saying it's done, but for where we are at now, what do you think of this summer? Is it a good summer, a bad summer? What do you think? I think it's a good one. I'd probably put it in the 7 to 8 bracket as well. Yeah, I think I'd put it in the 7 to 8 bracket. Oops. Yeah. Because I think it's a good summer. I think it's really, I think it would be a good window overall that would tell us, hey, we're making progress. Not done, but progress. Progress. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing that I would say about these signings, by the way, just to think with reality. One thing that people are going to not like about this summer. Do you know what date the Community Shield is? You know what day it is? In 2024? August 10th, yeah. August 10th. If Netherlands get knocked out in their next game, Xerxes likely wouldn't join until after the U.S. tour. Same goes for Matthias de Ligt, and the same goes for Manuel Ugarte, who's at the Copa America. So we're probably not going to see any new signings on the tour. They're all going to join pretty late in preseason. International breaks, international summers where you have World Cups, where you have Euros, this is what happens. It is what it is. They're going to take 3 weeks off. They're going to take 3 weeks off. They get 3 weeks. They get 3 weeks. So based on the poll, yeah, that result 7 to 8. Most people 68%. I would tend to agree with that. But yeah, they get 3 weeks off. But that's everybody. That's everybody. That's going to happen for every club. It's not about can they join. They didn't take time off. They didn't take their 3 weeks. Most of them will get 3 weeks off. What do you mean doing a poll is pointless when we've signed no one? It's if that were the summer. It's an if scenario for the poll. But yeah, they generally get 3 weeks. So yeah, a little bit concerned there. But that's the same for every club. Ideally, we work in a good plan and we kind of sub them in there. Yeah, we won't have Bruno. We won't have Kabi. We won't have Lissandro. We won't have Garnacho. We won't have Luke Shaw technically, even though he's just there. And that's going to make some of this difficult because we can't sell Maguire until we actually have some center backs to play. But our preseason, we talked about this in the live yesterday, but it's going to be a pretty funny preseason. Rashford, Højlund might make it. Yeah, Højlund would make it on the tour. Rashford, Højlund, Ahmad, Mount, McTominay, maybe Amrabat, or Casemiro, rather. Malacia, Johnny Evans, or Lindelof and Maguire, and Wan-Bissaka. That'll be our team for preseason, most likely. So, and yeah, I'm saying starting 11, but yeah, Anthony too. Yeah, Anthony in there as well. Probably a few other ones that I'm not. And Onana will be there, which is good. But yeah, it's kind of a funny, it'll be a bit of a funny one, a bit of a funny preseason. Okay, I'm going to answer any questions that you all have before I end this off, anything that I haven't said. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the people who've donated to ask questions, because it certainly helps me to get to everything that I want to get to. Any further questions that anybody has right now, please let me know that I have not answered. Are we interested in Yusuf Fofana? He is a name that's on there, but it looks like he's going somewhere, isn't he? Right wing options, maybe Marcus Edwards as well. That Ndoye was linked. Those are just two other little names. A good shot at Champions League next year. Stronger pull and more financials. Yes. I think that's part of it, is don't blow your whole load of money today and have some space next summer to get those like cherry on top type of players. You know what I mean? Yeah, when they get medicals, they get everything on people. Do I think a left back will be signed? I'm honestly not sure. I haven't heard anything on Todibo on that. There's only been like one report about a lawyer, but I haven't heard anything. I don't know. I'm not going to Cape Town for my holiday. I'm staying in the country. No titty chance. Oh man. I know Luke Shaw's basically on holiday too. It's not we're playing three at the back. You build up in different shapes, and so I was moving it around the ways that it might look in games. Yes, I will be on the preseason tour. I will be going to South Carolina and Los Angeles, and I hope to see you there. I really do. And there'll be some fan events and things hosted by the club. Let me just check something actually. Yeah. And I'll hopefully take part in some of those as well, as I did in Las Vegas. Would I sign Daniel Mallon? No, definitely not. I don't think he's very good. Donnie will surely get loaned somewhere. There are going to be new medical staff too. Other new staff are expected. Aside from just the one that was been announced, there's supposed to be more. I don't have any names or details, but there are supposed to be more. I kind of like this, where it's like half a screen. I get to just lean over next to my microphone. It's kind of nice. It's relaxing. We talked about Onana from Everton. Sancho swap with Malen seems off the table because they've signed somebody. They don't need Sancho anymore, apparently. I've not heard of any interest currently in Xabi Simons. Kirkes was at the Euros. I think we need money. Dan Gore, Maybe on loan again. I haven't heard much, but maybe him or Collier can get into the team this year as a depth. And me personally, that's where I look at the Amrabat thing. I'd rather see them getting in the team than than spending 15, 20 million plus wages for years. I'd rather see youth get in there and in the cups play them. Play the youth in the cups. Like we don't have to win a League Cup. I would be nice, but let's get some mileage out of it, Evan Ferguson's been of interest, but I still feel like he'd be extremely expensive, and I've got some concerns about him. He's still obviously someone that United are going to have on their radar for a while. They don't put that out. Wheatley would be nice to see him play in there, yeah. I don't have anything on Regulon. I put him in this thing because of the reports. New coach's official announcements. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's supposed to happen this week. I'm still waiting. I'm checking all the time, and my feeling is it's going to happen at the least convenient time for me. Like, I got word about the Ashworth thing, but I was indisposed at the moment. Shenanigans. Love the content, but you need to push super chats more. I see nobody channels cleanup. I feel you aren't monetizing the full advantage. Don't be shy. I mean, I appreciate you wanting to support me. I really do. And I don't know. I have a hard time with it because I would love to tell people to spend more money and to make more out of this. The more that it builds, the more chance in the long run it becomes something that becomes actually more of a real job instead of a hobby. I don't make a lot from this. I don't know if I ever will, but it would be cool someday. Hey, you never know what could happen in the future. Would you say Neil Custis, is that real? I mean, Neil Custis, man. I'm not going to say anything mean about him, but there's been some stories, that just have gone absolutely nowhere. Oh, he's writing about Rashford, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I know. We know that. That is not an exclusive. We know that they're talking about it. We know that they're working on it. It is not necessarily true that they're not on speaking terms, sorry to say. We know everything that's happened. These are just repeats of the stories. They're set to meet, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they obviously have to improve the relationship, but it has a lot more to do with how he's going to play. It's not that dramatic. It is not that dramatic. Would you quit your job if this earned you enough? Probably. I mean, this is a lot more fun. I enjoy this a lot more. I would love to do something like this more full time and be able to travel for it and things like that. I don't think that's realistic. I don't want to monetize everything to like an insane amount, but yeah. What is his article saying? Man United set to complete, expected to go through after Euro 2024. It's a good guess. It's probably going to happen. I'm not saying he's guessing. I'm not going to try to, again, I'm trying not to talk shit, but we'll see. I'll wait for more people to report that it's done. My day job is working in marketing. Like, I want it to remain something I enjoy doing because otherwise I won't. And if I go too hard on monetizing, then I don't know if I'll enjoy it. Like, I'd rather it be built organically. And if people want to donate, then thanks. Thank you very much. I mean, we have the Patreon. We have a lot of people in there. And that's where I make any money, really, is mostly out of that. And people love it. And I think that one's great because there's a lot of value that I can give there where people join. There's the private channels and a lot of things I can talk about in there. And I think it has a really high retention rate because people love doing it and it doesn't cost them a lot. So that I really enjoyed. I enjoy that aspect of it and I will continue enjoying that aspect of it. But I don't like publicly, in giving the info and doing the things to make it too crazy for me. It's just not, is what it is. I'm still try to do things the way I do it. And I don't like to figure out what I'm going to do around money. That wouldn't be the goal. The Patreon has some private channels. I participate in there a lot. I share a lot of the details of what's going on behind the scenes. information before I can put it out more publicly, when I'm just like kind of explaining the early stories. Not everything. There's still things I have to hold private from everybody, but there's stuff in there. There's stuff in there. It's in the description. There's a link in the description. A free MAGA hat from James personally. That's fake news media. Yeah. Anyway, it's a MUGA hat, actually. It's Make United Great Again. No, but actually that would be good merchandise, wouldn't it? If I ever wanted to do merchandise, that'd be a good idea. Anyway, there's information that I have in there that I get in there before I can do videos and put things out, before I have time to, where I'm talking about it, or things that I'm exploring, or things that I'm investigating. Just a little more behind the scenes of what kind of goes into getting all of this and putting it together. But people mostly come for that, and then they stay for the channels, the chat channels, because it's fun, and people enjoy it, and it's very interesting. Yeah, Richie, I've seen that, and it's really nice that people do that, and I appreciate them. I met a lot of really nice people and interacted with a lot of really nice people in the United space, for sure. Surprise signings. I own my business, and it's all from a distance, so I don't really have to meet with people in person much. That's why I'm able to do this. Yeah. Playback's been cool. I enjoy that, and we will keep doing that as well. I like being able to bring people in, and during the season, we will do it. James, is Gary Bailey your dad? Who's Gary Bailey? Not that I know of. Oh. That Gary Bailey, no. From Ipswich. Yeah, I don't know. Gary Bailey. Huh. Are you a millionaire? How did you get to know Phil? Phil, I really liked Phil. I reached out to him through the community. That's right, from the 80s. I don't know a ton about a lot of the older players, honestly, because you didn't get any United stuff, and I wasn't even alive in the 80s, but you didn't get a lot of old United stuff. I reached out to Phil, when I was building things up to talk to him. He was somebody who was really kind to speak with and give advice and help with, and he's a lot more knowledgeable, a lot more connected than a lot of people understand, and a really, really nice guy, and has helped a lot. Amy Harvey just saying hi to my boyfriend watching your stream. Well, isn't that nice of you guys? And I like that he gives me a totally opposite opinion, even if some of you don't like it. United were interested in Archie Gray, but they could not get him. He's not somebody they felt they could obtain. I don't think that they're finalizing a deal for Gutierrez. That has been somebody they've been interested in as a left back, but have not pursued as of recently. He had an injury and such. But it's better now. I think he's still of interest, but I'm not sure. He also has a buyback to Real Madrid. MUGA hat Supreme. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I would love to get other people on for sure. There's people I definitely want to get. And yeah, I'm not going to not do podcasts with Phil because we disagree on things. That's kind of the point of the discussion. He might be right, The whole money... Yeah, I met Phil too, yes, in real life, yeah. The whole Moneyball idea, I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's viable. I think it has potential. But he is correct. Most of the big clubs make big signings. There's a blend, obviously, but he's correct about some of that stuff, and we'll see how this works out. Yeah, I met Phil. I met Flex. I met almost all the journalists. I met Rob Dawson too, in Las Vegas. Moneyball is essentially the theory that was popularized in baseball about when a team that had a lower budget being able to use analytics to make essentially cheaper, more efficiency signings and be competitive on that basis, where you don't go for the big name stars, but you go for a lot of the under the radar talents and build that way. Where do you think we finish if we get all the signings in your lineup? I mean, that's up to Ten Hag, how he wants to play. Has a lot of potential, but it has a lot of risk. If you're pushing De Ligt up and you're pushing Kavi Mainu up and you're leaving the big gaps in the midfield still, it's going to be helped by Ugarte, but I think you're going to still concede a lot of goals. So, you know, I think that depends. So, all right. It's been a long time. My voice is running out of steam. My throat's getting dry. I'm gonna end it here, and I appreciate you all talking to me. I appreciate you all hanging out with me here, asking questions, going over everything, and thank you once again for everything. I'm gonna be off the next couple of days. If something major happens, I will try to do a little video or stream or something from my phone early in the morning, my time, because I wake up before everybody, and I'll be on Twitter and all of that with regular updates. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. Appreciate it very much, and I will catch you in the next video, the next stream. Thank you. See y'all later. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the Euros over the weekend as well, and the Copa if you're watching. And yeah, see you later.